Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. We are sitting in here in an empty garage because a friend's coming over and we're going to install some lights on his truck. Now the guys over at a company called Colight sent us out their ditch lights. These are the LA5 series. They market it as a motorcycle light, but for us overland off-roading guys, they are a ditch light. Now I've opened it up just so I can kind of mock things up and show you what's what before we get it on the truck, because it's much easier to see this way. So basically in here you get your ditch lights. And now cool thing is these ones are white. So if you want a white light and you're not sure if you want to go white or amber, you can get white. And what they do is they send you not only a amber cover for it, so it'll click right on there. Now you have an amber light. But if the cops are a pain in the butt, because it is actually illegal to have these things without a cover, you also get a black cover to go with it. Now also in the box is your hardware. And in here you can see you get a big bolt with a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. And two smaller bolts, same idea, lock washer and a flat washer, and two different size Allen keys. Now the small key is actually for the light itself. So if you break the lens, you take those 4 screws out and you can actually just replace the lens instead of having to buy a whole new actual light itself. The light's going to be fine. If you crack the lens, it's not the end of the world. You can just replace it. Now this one I got kind of set up already how it's going to go. And the bigger Allen key is for this guy. Now the way they make this is, if you look, you want to put your, I actually got this side backwards now that I look, but you want it like this. You want your screw, your lock washer, and then the flat washer tucked up against your mount. And same idea for the bottom. You'll have your bolt, and if you can see in there, they've actually got 2 little humps, one on each side. So you don't have to be able to get a wrench in there. This is going to hold the top of the bolt, and you can just wrench on the nut to tighten it up. And again, you'll want the flat washer up against the mount and the lock washer against your nut here. So this will be how it looks. And you want to get it tight enough that you can still adjust it up and down and side to side by hand, but not so tight that it won't move. And then obviously you don't want it so loose that it's going to rattle and move around while you're driving. So you kind of got to find the happy medium in there. And then of course you can see the mount on there. It all comes wrapped up in plastic. This is for the other one. And those 2 little bolts, there is pre-threaded holes on the side. So one will go in there and one will go in there. And now as for the wiring, this is the part that probably scares a lot of people away from doing this themselves. It looks like a hot mess, but it's actually not too bad. If you want to use it just as is, it's super simple. You have your relay, that you just have to mount somewhere. You can see it comes with a little hole there. Find a bolt, take that bolt out and mount it. Just keep it away from anything extremely hot or anything that moves, but bolt that anywhere. Positive and negative. Easy, positive to positive, negative to negative on your battery, and you're done. Nice thing with this is in here is actually a fuse. So if you get this whole thing wired up and maybe you short it somewhere or you got it wired wrong, it's going to blow the fuse instead of wrecking not only your truck, but the lights. So if for some reason you go to flick this on and it's not working, chances are you've blown the fuse. Doesn't have to necessarily be right away. Could be a year or 2 down the road, something freaks out in your truck and blows the fuse. It's not your lights, so make sure you remember that's there, because it could be as easy as just flopping out a new switch and you're done. And then as for the wiring, you get all this. We're going to trim it down because obviously from the battery to one side of the truck, you got like probably close to 8 feet of wire until you get over here. And these 2 are the plugs. You can look on here, they have a nice rubber ring around them so it'll seal the water out, because these 2 plug in to the end of your ditch lights here. So you can see it's going to plug in there, just 2 prongs. They only fit one way. Push it tight enough, make sure it clicks and will not come undone. And then that rubber ring keeps all the gunk out. And then, like I mentioned, We're going to trim it up. It is just a positive and negative, so we're going to route everything where we want it, cut the excess off, and just join the wires back together at the right length. But at least if you're doing this on something, a large vehicle or whatever, you got tons and tons of room to do it. And then the on-off switch. Again, if you're going to wire this just to your battery and use as is, once you're hooked up to your positive negative and your lights are plugged in, it's as easy as on and off. Now, we're actually going to change this out to a OEM Tacoma switch. So all these little switches are made the same. The color of the wires may be different, but the switch itself is the same. So if you look at here, we have black on the top, red in the middle, and yellow on the bottom. I'm going to show you, once I get this all wired up to the Tacoma switch, which wire goes where. Again, depending on the company you use to buy your light, it may not be black, red, and yellow. Maybe it's blue, green, and purple or something like that, but the orientation is the same. So remember, on is up the way I'm holding this. So as long as you get those 3 wires, regardless of color, wired into the same spots I'm going to wire it into the Tacoma, you're not going to have an issue. If you get them upside down, it probably will not work, but here you go, black, red, yellow. And again, the colors might not be the same. So we're going to do that. And again, if you look in the middle here, it actually has a little clip. You can unclip it. Reason being is obviously this will all be under the engine bay, and this has to get into your cab to be plugged in, regardless of what you're going to wire it to. This switch will have to go somewhere, and if you want to use this switch, you can see it's got 2 little arms there. So if you get the right size drill bit, you can drill a hole, and this will actually clip in there, and then you're just going to have your switch. It'll go like that. On would be up, and the red light will turn on when it's on. Down, the light turns off, and your lights are off. But again, you can drill a hole and screw that, or just click it in if you want. It does work that way. But being a Tacoma, we're going to take out one of the blanks and fill it in like that. Also, one other thing I forgot to mention, if you have a switch panel in your truck, like I got aux beam in mine, these guys at Colight also make their own version. So if you order it as a pack, you can actually cut and eliminate all that. You don't need the power, you don't need the relays, you don't need the switch. All you do, plug these 2 into your lights, size them to wherever they plug into your switch panel, cut that open, because if you look in here, it is just a positive negative straight into your switch on your switch panel, and you control it all off that. So you could just have the 2 wires under your hood and eliminate all the other mess if you're doing it that way. Okay, so wiring, cut that off, and you got black, red, yellow. If you come to the Tacoma switch, you have green, red, yellow, or white, and black. You do black to black, green to yellow, and red and white to red. If you do it in that order. Now the backlight is not on. When you click it, the light comes on, and so do your ditch lights. Okay, everything is installed on the truck. You can't really see it on that side, but here and there we've got them to the mount. If you lift up this little rubber piece, the wire can fold back, go down in there, and then it pops in right here. So same on the other side. And then what we did is run behind, because on the Tacomas they got this little plastic piece on each side, so it's a good place to hide all your wiring. So you can see it went down there, the light plugs in behind here, and then that wire is the one that runs across all the way like that. And same idea, it'll go under that bigger plastic piece, up the side, and plug into the passenger ditch light. And then as for wiring, super simple. Your power, or your positive to positive, negative, don't ground it on the battery. If you look right here, they actually have a ground to the fender of the truck. So you can see the wire back there. And then right here is where we mounted the relay. And then again, all the wires are tucked up behind here. So when you're looking, you don't have too much of a mess. we'll strap that up a little better too. And then if you look down right there is where the switch wire will go. So you can see it's fed down. You will have to cut a hole or poke a hole in the little rubber boot, and that allows you to get it inside the truck. All right, inside the truck, if you look up under there, you might be able to see it, is where the rubber boot comes through. And then what you're looking for is this panel here. We have the switch, which fits perfectly right here. This is where the blank was before. You just pop it out, 2 little tabs on the back, squeeze and pull, and it'll pop out. To get this out, get your fingers in there if you can get into good enough grip or a pry tool. Pull it straight out and then just let it hang. And then again, this is our wire that I showed you the wiring for. So all you gotta do is plug it in there, plug the other end back into your Tacoma switch, and then you're all done. All right, now everything is all back together, set and done. You have your one button right here. Push them, and on come the lights. And then once the hood is all shut, you have your 2 sitting just like this. No wires, no nothing in the way. Nice and clean, same as under the hood. And then if you want your amber light, you put the cover on. If you want them covered with the black so there's no light, throw the black covers on. One little test in the daylight with the amber covers on, nice and bright. You can see it does shine everything amber. It's not a weird color. It does actually work pretty well for just a cover over the regular light. All right, so there you have it, guys. Install's done. Unfortunately, he had to go to work, so we're not going to have time today to test them in the dark. If I get around to filming that soon enough, I'll put it in this video. If not, we also have a plan of testing my Baja Designs. You can see I got the Squadron Pros on here. So we're going to test these because this compared to the Colight that we installed on his truck are a little bit more than 3 times the price. So is it really worth spending that much money on a design or a brand name like Baja Designs? Or can you go the cheaper route like we put on the Tacoma there? We're going to find out. These, again, are built very similar. I have the amber version. You can switch the front plate to give yourself the white light if you want. Same idea as the one I showed you on his truck. And build-wise, they're very similar as well. You got the little slits for the heat distribution and all that. The only difference I could find is the mounts that come with the Baja Designs are stainless steel, where his are powder-coated black. So we're going to put them side by side in another video and test out. If you want to spend your hard-earned dollars on the big stuff like Baja Designs, or if you want to go the cheaper route, you're going to be able to see just how much light these things put out side by side. And then, of course, there's always the longevity of these things as well. We don't know how long they will last. Of course, my Baja Designs have been on here for a little bit over a year, or maybe right around a year. So without giving them the full test, I can't really tell you how long they will last in this video or the next video. But I would say, you know, if you can buy a cheaper version 3 times over, even if they last a third of the time, you're going to break even at the end of the day. Only difference is you're going to have to replace them. And that's if they break. If they last a long time, like they should, why waste your money? If you don't want the name brand, you can go with something a little cheaper. So again, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. I'll get that out as soon as I can. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully we catch you in the next one.